Scenes of hunting in the Paleolithic are common, but this is only the third known instance in which the aftermath with innards on display is shown also. Found at rock shelter number 6 at Mysore in central India, the image of the deer and its innards apparently dates to about 30,000 years ago. Depictions of humans hunting animals are common in the annal of Paleolithic cave art, but depictions of the aftermath are anything but common. In fact, this is one of only 2 found in India. Modern humans began to edge out the Neanderthals in Europe earlier than previously thought, a new study shows. Tests on remains from a cave in northern Bulgaria suggest Homo sapiens was there as early as 46,000 years ago. This is up to 2,000 years older than evidence from Italy and the UK. This could suggest the 2 groups interacted sufficiently for modern humans to influence Neanderthal behavior. The new find suggests there was around 5,000 years of chronological overlap between Neanderthals and modern humans in Europe. Dozens of previously unrecorded Roman, prehistoric, and medieval sites have been discovered by archaeology volunteers based at home. Digging may be on hold due to the pandemic, but the team have found parts of 2 Roman roads, around 30 prehistoric large embanked settlement enclosures, around 20 prehistoric burial mounds, as well as the remains of hundreds of medieval farms, field systems, and quarries. Those leading the project believe they will make many more discoveries in the coming weeks. When the worst of the pandemic is over, the team intend to undertake geophysical surveys at a number of the newly identified sites as part of the Understanding Landscapes project. Ancient genomics is starting to unravel the history of East Asia. The first large-scale studies of ancient human genomes from the region suggest that many of its inhabitants descend from 2 once distinct populations that began mixing after the development of agriculture some 10,000 years ago. The studies also reveal connections between ancient humans that extend from southern China to the South Pacific, and a link between coastal inhabitants that could offer clues about how humans came to settle in East Asia. Researchers have discovered part of the mystery behind the construction of the earliest known temple in human history. The researchers used a computer algorithm to trace the architectural design, especially 3 of the complex's monumental round structures, to determine that the pillars were placed in their particular positions on purpose. The layout of the complex is characterized by spatial and symbolic hierarchies that reflect changes in the spiritual world and in the social structure. The findings suggest that major architectural transformations during this period, such as the transition to rectangular architecture, were knowledge-based, top-down processes carried out by specialists. A long-anticipated recalibration of radiocarbon dating could shift the age of some prehistoric samples hundreds of years. For the first time in 7 years, the technique is due to be recalibrated using a slew of new data from around the world. The work combines thousands of data points from tree rings, lake and ocean sediments, corals, and stalagmites, among other features, and extends the time frame from radiocarbon dating back to 55,000 years ago, 5,000 years further than the last recalibration update in 2013. Although the recalibration mostly results in subtle changes, even tiny tweaks can make a huge difference for archaeologists and paleoecologists aiming to pin events to a small window of time. A new study has revealed the oldest link yet between Native Americans and their ancestors in East Asia. A 14,000-year-old tooth belonging to a close cousin of today's Native Americans, found thousands of kilometers from the landmass that once connected Eurasia and the Americas. Sometime about 20,000 years ago, people began to cross the eastern tip of Siberia onto Beringia. Exactly where they lived and roamed in Siberia before that, however, has long been a mystery. DNA sequencing was performed on a sliver of a human tooth found in south-central Russia, which showed the individual was a man who shared the same distinctive mixture of East Asian and Eurasian ancestry as today's Native Americans. An aerial search in the Peruvian desert has revealed intriguing figures of humans and animals that predate the nearby UNESCO World Heritage Site. New research with drones has helped uncover hundreds of such figures carved in the desert near the lines in Nazca, but which predate them by as much as 1,500 years. The smaller forms were etched on hillsides in nearby Papa by the Paracas and Tapara cultures between 500 BCE and 200 AD. In late May, mining company Rio Tinto detonated explosives near culturally significant sites dating back more than 46,000 years in Australia. The blast occurred in an area of the Yukon Gorge, about 60 kilometers northwest of Tom Price, and decimated two ancient deep-time rock shelters. During an excavation in 2014, archaeologist Dr. Michael Slack found several staggering artifacts including grinding and pounding stones, which were believed to be the earliest use of grindstone technology in Western Australia. New simulations from Imperial College London have revealed the asteroid that doomed the dinosaurs struck Earth at the deadliest possible angle. The simulations show that the asteroid hit Earth at an angle of about 60 degrees, which maximized the amount of climate-changing gases thrust into the upper atmosphere. Such a strike likely unleashed billions of tons of sulfur, blocking the sun and triggering the nuclear winter that killed the dinosaurs and 75% of life on Earth 66 million years ago. Scientists in Israel believe they've found evidence of some of the oldest and holiest rollers in biblical history. Deep in the inner sanctum of an 8th century BCE shrine, worshippers weren't just burning frankincense. The Tel Arad fortress is believed to be the southernmost stronghold for the kingdom of Judah, which was formed after the death of King Solomon. When that fortress was excavated in the 1960s, scientists found evidence of a religious shrine on the northwestern edge of the site. Within that shrine, scientists found a room containing cult objects and two stone altars with a black clump of organic material carefully placed on top of each one. Decades later, a new chemical analysis of the smaller altar found trace evidence of THC, CBD, and CBN, all chemicals that are present in marijuana. With myriad fragments and an extraordinary past, the Dead Sea Scrolls are quite a puzzle. Now experts say ancient DNA has helped them piece together which fragments come from the same scrolls, as well as which texts may have traveled a distance and how widespread the writings were. The team reported how mitochondrial DNA extracted from 26 fragments revealed that 24 of them, including 2 fragments from the book of Jeremiah, were made of sheepskin, while 2 fragments also of Jeremiah were made from cow skin. That suggested the latter were probably produced outside of Qumran. The Judean desert has not been well suited for cow husbandry for at least the last 2 millennia, and there is no evidence for the processing of cow skins in Qumran. Ancient humans, Neanderthals, and Denisovans were genetically closer than polar bears and brown bears, and so like the bears, were able to easily produce healthy, fertile hybrids according to a study led by University of Oxford's School of Archaeology. The study shows that the genetic distance values between humans and our ancient relatives were smaller than the distance between pairs of species which are known to easily hybridize and have fertile young. Thus, This comparative measure suggests that humans and Neanderthals and Denisovans were able to produce live, fertile young with ease. Scientists using an aerial remote sensing method have discovered the largest and oldest known structure built by the ancient Maya civilization, a colossal rectangular elevated platform built between 1000 and 800 BCE in Mexico's Tabasco state. The structure, unlike the soaring Maya pyramids at cities like Tikal in Guatemala and Palenque in Mexico, erected some 1500 years later, was not built of stone but rather of clay and earth, and was probably used for mass rituals. Located at a site called Aguada Phoenix near the Guatemalan border, the structure measured nearly a quarter of a mile wide, 9/10 of a mile long, and stood 33 to 50 foot high. In total volume, it exceeded ancient Egypt's Great Pyramid of Giza, built 1500 years earlier. Until now, little was known about when humans started eating the crop, now a staple of meals around the globe that shapes agricultural landscapes and ecosystem biodiversity. The rare human remains found in Maya mountains of Belize, buried during the last 10,000 years, has allowed experts to date when maize became a major part of people's diets in the region for the first time. Radiocarbon dating of the skeletal samples shows the transition from pre-maize hunter-gatherer diets, where people consumed wild plants and animals, to the introduction and increasing reliance on the crop. Maize made up about a third of the people's diets in the area by 4,700 years ago, rising to 70% 700 years later. Analysis of a Neolithic skull revealed not only how she looked, but also where her people originated far across the Mediterranean. The skull's age remained a mystery for many years. In 2019, the results of a landmark study proved through DNA analysis that it belonged to a woman who lived 7,500 years ago, making it the oldest remnant of a modern female woman found in Gibraltar to date. The Gibraltar National Museum team worked to create a forensic anatomical reconstruction of her face. Computers scanned its broken bones and utilized 3D cloning and restitution programs to recreate missing and damaged portions, including the jaw. Combining the data from the scans with the genetic analysis, a team at the museum spent 6 months to create her striking, lifelike visage. For the first time, archaeologists have succeeded in mapping a complete Roman city, using advanced ground-penetrating radar, allowing them to reveal astonishing details while it remains deep underground. The research harnessed recent advances in GPR technology, which make it possible to explore larger areas in higher resolution than ever before. This is likely to have major implications for the study of ancient cities, because many cannot be excavated either because they are too large or because they are trapped under modern structures. More than 120,000 novel human genetic variations that affect large regions of DNA have been discovered, some of which are linked to immune response, disease susceptibility, or digestion. Scientists at the Wellcome Sanger Institute identified these changes affecting multiple bases of DNA, known as structural variations, in a study of the most diverse worldwide populations examined to date. This included variations in medically important genes in populations from Papua New Guinea that were inherited from Denisovan ancestors. A new study provides the earliest evidence for bow and arrow use and perhaps the making of clothes outside of Africa 48 to 45,000 years ago in the tropics of Sri Lanka. Clear evidence for use on the preserved bone arrowheads shows that they were likely used for hunting difficult-to-catch rainforest prey. Not only that, but the scientists show that other bone tools may have been used for making nets or clothing in tropical settings, dramatically altering traditional assumptions about how certain human innovations were linked with specific environmental requirements. Prehistoric pioneers could have relied on shellfish to sustain them as they followed migratory routes out of Africa during times of drought, a new study suggests. The study examined fossil reefs near to the now submerged Red Sea shorelines that marked prehistoric migratory routes from Africa to Arabia. The findings suggest this coast offered the resource necessary to act as a gateway out of Africa during periods of little rainfall when other food sources were scarce. The researchers found that populations of marine mollusks were plentiful enough to allow continuous harvest without any major ecological impacts, and their availability would have enabled people to live through times of drought. DNA has been used to confirm the existence of an elite social class in the Stone Age inhabitants of Ireland. It is one of the earliest examples of such a hierarchy among human societies. A key piece of evidence comes from an adult male buried at the 5,000-year-old Newgrange monument. His DNA revealed that his parents were first-degree relatives, possibly brother and sister. The Irish elites were established during Neolithic times when people first started farming. The researchers extracted DNA from 44 ancient individuals from across Ireland and sequenced their genomes. Evidence of incestuous unions like that found at Newgrange are rare in human history. They are taboo for interlinked biological and cultural reasons. Where they do occur, it is often within royal dynasties that have been granted divine status. A circle of deep shafts has been discovered near the World Heritage Site of Stonehenge, to the astonishment of archaeologists who have described it as the largest prehistoric structure ever found in Britain. 4,500 years ago, the Neolithic peoples who constructed Stonehenge, a masterpiece of engineering, also dug a series of shafts aligned to form a circle spanning 1.2 miles in diameter. The structure appears to have been a boundary guiding people to a sacred area because Durrington Walls, one of Britain's largest henge monuments, is located precisely at its center. The site is 1.9 miles northeast of Stonehenge on the Salisbury Plain near Almesbury, Wiltshire. A former Royal Navy diver and Dornoch native has discovered an almost completely intact 5,500-year-old cup hidden in the mud of a loch in the Outer Hebrides. Archaeologists are said to be very excited over the find, which could provide clues to the lives of the early islanders. The cup was found on the Isle of Lewis by Chris Murray. The location has been kept secret at this stage, but Mr. Murray described it as a beautiful example of the Neolithic age and was the first person to drink from it in thousands of years. Patrick Nielsen did not know exactly what he was looking at, but he knew it was special. Mr. Nielsen was in a remote part of Central Australia called the Amadeus Basin, south of Alice Springs, doing what he does most weekends, amateur fossil hunting. Quote, I had been out there for a few hours. I was going to come back to my car for a peanut butter sandwich, and as I started heading back to my car, I thought this really is a bit different. I'm going to collect it. It was about 3 centimeters long, a little bit like a tadpole, and quite weathered. It was also intact. Usually you just find bits of a creature. End quote. Mr. Nielsen had found a 460 million year old arthropod fossil that had never been seen in Central Australia.